Hello, everyone. Welcome to Kaayyoo Multimedia Network. As we have all noticed, since November 2020, Ethiopia has dominated the international media outlets for all the wrong reasons. We've been hearing reports of atrocities, mass killing, arbitrary mass arrest, and gang rape perpetrated by the Ethiopian government authorities and the Eritrean army in the northern part of Oromia. But is this something new, or is it something that is an extension of what has already been going on? So we're going to talk about this, and we are going to put things in context and see the implications to the Horn of Africa and to the rest of the world. And I've got Nagasa Sorigerba. I guess no one is a better expert in this section, in this sector. Nagasa Sorigerba is a UK resident, but before he moved to Britain, he worked as a founder of the Ethiopia Information Network Security Agency, INSA for short. That is the agency established by Abiy Ahmed. In fact, I guess Abiy Ahmed was the immediate boss of Nagasa Sorigerba, or the immediate supervisor of Nagasa Sorigerba, even though Nagasa Sorigerba was very well qualified, two more qualified in terms of academic performance than Abiy Ahmed. That's what I gathered from Nagasa's foreign friends. So, Nagasa, what is happening in Oromia? What is going on in Empire Ethiopia, the Horn of Africa? Tell us.
Okay, thank you for having me here, Denebo, and thank you for flattering introduction. Yes, before I start, giving my own views and some expressions about what's going on in Oromia very recently. I thought it would be better to say a little bit about INSA. I don't want to go into detail about the establishment of INSA. This is not really the new, it's not new for Ethiopians, even though when this agency was established in 2006, Ethiopian people or people in the empire, including Oromos, were not aware of even the existence of this kind of very secure intelligence department. Yes, I was there from the very beginning when it was established, and I was one of the few, about 42 engineers who were graduated, and Abiy, his academic achievement at that time was not known, apart from he was one of the senior military personnel. In terms of academics, he started things then from scratch. So this INSA was basically established to assess and to jam, to control the information that is, moving around, to block the dissents and the political parties, nationalists, Oromos, even others. It has nothing to do with any other kind of for purpose. At the time, it was actively jamming Oromo voices in all aspects, individuals, including political leaders, activists, in a way that they are not aware of how they were really monitored electronically. Yes, I was working there.
So, sorry to interrupt you, Nagasa. So we're talking about the current Prime Minister of Ethiopia, Abiy Ahmed.
Yes. Yes, we are talking about the current Prime Minister, Dr. Abiy Ahmed. Is a Nobel Peace Prize laureate. That is what the world know. But the good thing now is that the world is It's scapegoating him now, and his friend Isaias Afwerki, who used to be one of the enemies that have already, waged war against each other. So the current situation in Oromia is that not just really about the current situation. I think it is really good to start from around the end of June 2020, when the prominent Oromo activist and Oromo right activist and the prominent musician Hachalu Hundesa's assassination. That was a political assassination, which we believe that this was orchestrated by the authorities. And this has been, lots of evidence have been gathered, and the oral evidences have been given that we have witnessed from the person who've been accused of wrongly, deliberately, to cover their own wrongdoings by the authorities. So since then, in Ethiopia, the political landscape has never been like before. Everything has changed, and that the reason, the problem we are really facing now as a nation, especially Oromo, is the continuation of all this harassment and the killings, arbitrary killings, summary executions, indiscriminate killings, detentions, gang rape, all this by the state security agencies and the military forces. So what is going on now is really things are not getting better. What we are seeing here in Tigray, the war that waged by the federal government against the people of Tigray, that has already started in Oromia before this happened. However, people did not really give due attention what was going on in Oromia by the government security forces, because they have done lots of things there and killed people, arrested people for no reason, for no apparent reason, and without due process of law. That has escalated to Tigray, and that is what the world is now witnessing. So this has to, what we really want to know is that the world has to be, understand the situation, what is going on by this government, who really claims himself as one of the democratic principle that they are planning to establish in that country has a transitional from democratic to democracy, which they have already completely destroyed. This hope has already gone. That is my summary of views.
Thank you. Thank you. By the way, our listeners and viewers, whenever we talk about Oromia, I think it is a good idea to introduce Oromia to particularly to the English-speaking viewers and listeners. Oromia is a country that has been colonized by Ethiopia, of course, with the help of French, Britain, and Italian colonial establishment of the day. Oromia is a country as big as United Kingdom, Korea, Israel, Switzerland, Belgium, and the list goes on and on. All these 18 countries put together. We're talking about a country of about 600,000 square miles, which, like I said, is as big as all of these 18 countries. And Oromo people have been fighting for freedom, for independence. And this fighting has been going on for decades and decades. It had already been going on before the Oromo Liberation Front was established in a very formative and pragmatic way in 1970s. So, Nagasa, you mentioned the assassination of Hachalu Hundessa. There are some indications that Hachalu's assassination is indirectly linked with the Black Lives Matter movement, because Hachalu's assassination and the assassination of George Floyd they both took place, within a few weeks time after one another. And it is also indicated that Hachalu Hundessa spoke against the statue of Emperor Menelik. Emperor Menelik was the Ethiopian emperor who participated in the Scramble for Africa, signed lots of treaties. We haven't got time to go through all those treaties. And Emperor Menelik was a slave trader, and there are massive evidence that suggests Emperor Menelik was heavily involved in slave trade, and he held slaves, 200,000 and around 200,000 slaves at one point. So it was against this atrocity, against this emperor that Hachalu spoke, and that angered the Ethiopian government authorities that had already been irritated by Hachalu's way of portraying art, Hachalu's way of creating awareness. So what do you make of that? Is it really related? How is it related to?
Thank you, Denebo. I think you've said a lot about this. Yes, Hachalu is one of the eloquent speaker, and really is someone who fought forefront, and his songs were the soundtrack of a Oromo revolution since 2014 or 15 until 2018, when the current prime minister, of course, he's not prime minister now, I can say it's the ex-prime minister of Ethiopia, even if he was not really selected, he was handpicked. So Hachalu is a very, very important figure of in any Oromo political movement in bringing the previous regime, EPRDF, down to its knee. Which the authorities now claiming that they are the one who really fought against it, and then completely abolished the system of TPLF, where they were part of the system, which we do all see it with lots of evidences. So Hachalu, yes, like you said, he clearly, in black and white, spoke against the statue of Menelik. Because Menelik, Emperor Menelik II, was the one who formed the current day Ethiopia by force, based on violence, killings of Oromos, by mutilation of amputation, mutilation, execution, beheading of Oromos. So that is how the current Ethiopian has a geography, like as emperor. Of course, we don't say it's country. People may call it Ethiopia as a country, which I do not really agree with it, because Ethiopia is not basically a country. It is an empire. It is an empire. It's a very difficult to democratize empire, by the way. Empire. Yeah. So Hachalu's days and the political assassination was directly in or indirectly, because people have already angry. The people who really want to bring back the system of Menelik back to Ethiopia, the idea that had been running 150 years ago, to bring it down to present-day Ethiopia, which Ethiopian Oromos do not see themselves in it. The southern nation, the nationalities do not see themselves in it. They just want to bring it, and because Hachalu clearly spoke against this Menelik, in the statue of Menelik, which he gave the comment that that statue has to be pulled down, because Oromos are not really happy with it, because this is a man who was a slave entrepreneur, like you said, is a slave entrepreneur. Who were the slaves at that time? It's Oromos and the southern nations. However, because these people are not really thinking and not having political pluralism and hosting really different kind of ideas in the 21st century, while the statues like in the United States who participated in slave trade pulled down in the United Kingdom where we live, in Bristol, one of the statue of a person who involved himself in slave trade were pulled down. Right? and all nations involved in that, because they just want to have oneness, like unity, because they just want to continue to live in their country with harmony. What we lack is this in Ethiopia, because people who really want to have it Menelik's political legacy to bring to even today, they just want to stick to that status and to that system. But Oromos do not even see themselves as Ethiopian, and they do not even hold the empire's flag. Oromos, you don't see in any kind of Oromo struggle that when they just have it, the empire's flag in their hand is as part of resistance. They always have it as their own flag, because they had their own system of governance. They were incorporated, annexed in Ethiopia by violation, by the barrel of gun. That's why, where is this Menelik statue erected? It is at the umbilical cord of Oromia. It is at the center of Oromia, called Finfinne. Look, these Oromos think this is an insult for them. This is what Achalu, in one of the Oromia Media Network, maybe a week before his execution, this assassination, he eloquently, clearly spoke out strongly that this statue has to be pulled down, because that doesn't reflect the whole people in the empire, especially Oromos.
Sorry, Nega, I think in addition to that, I think Achalu's views is a view of all of us, is the fact that, like you mentioned earlier, the statue of Edward Consul was pulled down in public in Bristol, which is only about 15 miles where I live. And there are so many other similar statues that were pulled down in London. And in Belgium, the statue of King Leopold, who many historians compare with Emperor Menelik in terms of the genocide and atrocity that King Leopold perpetrated against the Congo. So where the link is here, the Western political powers, the Western nations, have now admitted it was the wrong thing. Slavery is the wrong thing, and these statues, whether it is the statue we're talking about, the statues of Edward Consul or those in London or in other parts of Europe, people believe these are symbols of shame and disgrace. However, it was not Edward Consul who went to Africa and captured slaves at gunpoint and transported them. It was the likes of Emperor Menelik, whom many claim was the father of Africa. There's Richard Pankhurst in one of his books. He gives a figure that hundreds of thousands of slaves were owned by Emperor Menelik at one particular point, and these are the people who were commodified, who were shipped like items to the Western world. And so it doesn't really add up. It doesn't give sense for the Western political powers to remain silent or turn a deaf ear to the crimes that were conducted by Ethiopian emperors, and those crimes that have continued to be perpetrated. So the timing is quite so interesting, isn't it? We went to London for demonstrations, and all these things were happening at the same time globally, but the issues of the Oromo didn't get to go on the headlines. And something very interesting in London, even though it was not that big, the Africans, the angry Africans, pulled down the statue of Emperor Haile Selassie in Wimbledon, London, wasn't it?
Yeah, in Wimbledon, yeah.
In Wimbledon, that statue was pulled down, and it's got massive implication to whatever we're talking about. It was not just, even though some people tried to to paint a picture of, oh, this is antisocial behavior, some bunch of people, criminals, pulled it down. It doesn't really make sense. That is the act of criminal. If that was the act of criminals, then the pulling down of the statue of Edward Kossel is going to be act of criminals. And that of Belgium, which the Belgian government removed, is act of criminals. And I was going to ask you, at about that time, the Oromo young people occupied the Ethiopian embassy in London, and they then pulled down flag Ethiopia and replaced it with flag Oromia. And that kind of public disobedience, that kind of protest expanded throughout the world. Similar things happened in Germany, I guess, and also in some other part of the world as well. Can you say a few words into this, and what would this mean? What is the implication of these kind of activities in diaspora to what is happening in Oromia?
Okay, thank you. The world has been watching the major Oromo protests across Europe and in North America following the political assassination of our beloved artist Hachalu Hundessa. And following that, the arrest of prominent Oromo political leaders by covering this up by the authorities, because this has been it's a blame of finger was just always pointing toward this Oromo people and the Oromo nationalists. So following his assassination, like I said earlier, the political landscape in Ethiopia has never been before, and it will not be the same even in the future. This will never. We don't really take this as simple as they have thought before this happened. So during this demonstration, two major events which we have never experienced happened in London, in the UK. Yes, the demonstration that we've been conducting and participated was not the first time. We almost have been demonstrating for over decades in Europe, because the successive Ethiopian government has never been friends of Oromo, because the country was established based on abusing and ridiculing Oromos at large. And the system itself was against Oromo, because it was established by invasion and violence. So that is a result which is really rolling down to our age, or to this generation. But these two major events, like you mentioned, was that the demolition of the statue of Haile Selassie in Wimbledon, because I think the world know that Haile Selassie had been living around in Wimbledon since 1936, following the invasion of Italian.
He came to the UK and claimed asylum.
Yes, claimed asylum. He lived there for 5 years, ran away, and he was one of the card king at Oromo Sea. And he himself had a group of slaves where he was really proud of it, that having some those people of like servant. And he claimed himself as someone who've been sent as a Messiah from God. So, but we have never accepted, Oromos have never accepted, because it was always Oromos were oppressed by this king. So demolishing this king cannot be a crime. If this is a crime, like you said, other act of demolishing and taking action against the people who've participated in slave trade across the world, like we witnessed and you mentioned in detail earlier, would have been a crime, but that's not a crime. And the second one is that why Oromos really did this. This is a big message to the international community as well. That whoever really
we don't have any evidence that was specifically, it was only the Oromo who were involved in pulling down the statue of Haile Selassie. I've been gathering evidence that any angry Africans could have done it. Was what might have been what we know about the statue of Haile Selassie is that people of Black heritage who were dissatisfied, who were furious about the Ethiopia's involvement in slavery and slave trade, took it to the street. So it would have been demolished by any rational thinking Africans. Would you not think so?
That's true. That's true. Anybody who was really dissatisfied about the wrongdoings of this king when he was in power could have done it. That's not. Yes, we don't have any evidence to justify that. It's only Oromos did it. Yes, but we know something for sure. This happened during the demonstration was really running here and there in connection with to oppose the tyrant, the government of Ethiopia, the empire, people who are leading the empire at the moment. It is a part of exposing this wrongdoings to the international community. And also, it is, I think, a few days after or before. I'm not really quite sure or remember when the group of young Oromos and almost Oromo communities involved, and the Ethiopian embassy was controlled by this group of people who were very angry and very raged about the killings of this right activists. And the empire's flag were pulled down because, well, it doesn't represent me, and it doesn't represent most of the Oromo people as well. And that is what we are struggling for, to have our own flag, which really we believe represents us Oromo flag, basically known as the resistance flag. That happened. Why? This is a big message as well, because why? It is not really customary action or common. People pull down their country's flag and burn it and rip it away. Most, resistance against their states or government, any other places, like any other places in the world, it is that it is a system they are fighting, but at least they have got one common understanding of the flag, which really represents their name.
Yeah, and also there are people who, evidence are in the public domain that verify, that testify the fact that Ethiopia is an empire established by genocide and has been maintained by the same genocide. Not only this, Ethiopia committed crimes not only against the people who are in the current day empire Ethiopia, but historians claim that Ethiopia perpetrated crimes against Africa and the entire world, Black civilization and the entire Black people. So we'll get back to that when we talk about the invasion of Sudan. Sudan has now occupied territories in Ethiopia, and there are multiple interests, multiple international interests in what is going on in that part of the world at the moment. What I want to ask you is, now that protest, it might have stopped in London, okay? It might have, people might not have continued to occupy the embassy. Do you think that international media outlets have been complacent about this event? For sure, if it was certain Iranian groups that pulled down the flag of Iran in London, the likes of Al Jazeera, BBC, and others would have covered it 24/7. If, let alone pulling down the flags and let alone occupying their embassies, if just a protest happened outside the Iranian embassy or outside the Russian embassy or outside the Chinese embassy, this would have been a major event that attracted the interest of international media. you think the international community, international media are quite so complacent when it comes to, you know, the occupation of the Ethiopian embassy in London, the demolition of the statue of Emperor Haile Selassie, and no media even investigated how come the statue of Emperor Haile Selassie was erected in London in the first place. So what do you think of this? Have the international media and the international community been complacent about this? Then let's take a few minutes on this, and we proceed to our main topic for our discussion today. Sorry.
Exactly. Yeah, right. That is the reason that I really try to indicate that the two major events happened, and a strong message has been sent to the international community, which it did not get coverage which it deserves to be. Why this hasn't been covered the way to the magnitude that it should have been? Well, like I said, this is a statue which really most Africans are aware of, and Haile Selassie, most Africans think that he was the one of the founding member of African Organization of Africa Unity, which later became African Union, and some Ethiopia, outside of Ethiopian, like if you go to Jamaicans, there are a certain group of people who think Haile Selassie has a different view. They have got different view about him. And this man lived in England for 5 years and had a kind of communication with the Queen. And obviously, Haile Selassie was very popular in a sense that not for, you know, for something which is really has a good history. He might have, there might be people who really think Haile Selassie has one of the prominent and a very person who contributed in some positive thing to Africa. But the reality, what Oromo people see Haile Selassie is completely different. And this has been shown practically by the younger generation of Oromos after so many years. After so many years that new generation of Oromos and others have shown their dissatisfaction and the legacy that the Haile Selassie that has left with us in that empire. And because of the current government was trying to promote him, which is really that we, as Oromos and others subjugated people, do not really want to take it for granted as a good legacy. Then why the international community really want to give it very deep ear? Not only the international community and the medias, and not only international medias, about the local medias as well. It hasn't been really done lots of investigation, and that did not be taken has something which had to be investigated. And when the flag of the empire's flag, which is Ethiopian empire's flag, pulled down, this was not really something which is some. It is not something very easy or simple thing which you can bypass or just leave it for later. It's a very big issue. These people who did this, including myself, believed that I do not see myself in Ethiopia. I do not see it. It's not just because I really hate naturally. It's just because the way I and my people have been harassed, you know. And the sea has a subordinate in that country, has a second-class citizen, then I've always a question. And because this is an empire which comprises lots of countries, like United Kingdom, Britain is empire, but it's a very democratic one. Yeah. In Ethiopia, because there is no democracy and the system itself was established in terms of harassing Oromo people and others who are really subjugated for so many years. That's why we are always and have been struggling against this injustice in that country. But the international community did not really, they haven't covered to the extent that they should have. That is what that caused them. It causes that problem. It hasn't been addressed the way it should have been. And then it caused now the situation what we are facing in Ethiopia now. They could have helped people in Ethiopia, Oromo people, and if that was addressed at the early stage, the issues we are facing now could have been avoided. And
we'll get back to we'll get back to what should be done. But the fact of the matter is that since the assassination of Hachalu, that empire has never seen any peace, any stability, any security ever. Even though, you know, the atrocities have been carried out for, you know, decades, the assassination of Hachalu created a kind of turning point, hasn't it? It has, because I think this is the longest kind of discontinued protest, continued protest, continued mass disobedience, and we don't even know where to start, because you mentioned even Britain is an empire, but it's a democratic one. In Oromia, people took it to the street in protest against the assassination of Hachalu. Now, never mind the main reason that triggered his assassination. Even after his assassination, hundreds of thousands of innocent Oromo have been illegally detained, and the government has even went on to convert or turn colleges, schools into makeshift detention camps, and in Oromia, political prisoners have been subjected to COVID. The government has been using starvation as a tool, torture, arbitrary killings, and even gang rape. So that is against the very promises that Abiy Ahmed made when he was promoted to the office of the prime minister, when he became a prime minister about 3 years ago, maybe 2.5 years ago, in April 2018. It's in a public record when he said, well, my government was a terrorist government. Terrorism is arbitrary killing is what constitutes terrorism. Terrorism is subjecting mass to torture in prison. Terrorism is killing innocent mothers and innocent civilians. And he used those phrases, didn't he? And so as a result of that, he got the Nobel Peace Prize, and he ended up doing even worse than his predecessors. I'm not suggesting his predecessors institutionally, but in terms of individuals, because Abiy Ahmed is not new to this position, is he? And the situations are even getting worse and worse. So what do you make of this? Is it the extension of the atrocities that have already been taking place in Oromia, now extended to the northern part of the empire, to Tigray? So how was it related? Can you speak to that, Nagasa? And as someone who worked with Abiy Ahmed closely, I think you even shared an office with him, didn't you? So why is it that this kind of behavior is it natural? Is it ingrained into his psyche? Is that what constitutes his being, telling lies? Like, for example, when he branded Ethiopian government as a terrorist, he begged the Ethiopian Liberation Front to come and negotiate. He made promises and he ate up all those promises. And the leaders of the Oromo Liberation Front that moved their offices back to Finfinne ended up in prison. And Abiy Ahmed, in one of his speeches, I think recently, I think it was in December 2020, just a couple of months ago, when he held discussion with the Kenyan president, he declared that Ethiopia should eradicate the OLF. So these are really, some people think this is insanity, but as someone who worked with it, how do you assess? Is he really sane?
Well, this is a thing. In 2018, when Abiy was allowed to rise up to the highest office in Ethiopia, it was wrong. It was wrong then. Okay. Then it's wrong now. Why it is wrong now? Because it was wrong then. You can't get something right, start from wrong calculation. Okay, simple. If you use wrong mathematical equation or formula, you end up with the wrong answer.
So are you saying this because in 2018, just before Abiy Ahmed was given this office, the government barely managed to survive, was at the verge of collapse? Is that what you're saying?
Well, the problem that people really, the issue that people really need to understand is that I hope many people have now understood and than what it was in 2018. The thing is this, Abiy was one of the staunch supporters of the system himself. Abiy doesn't have any understanding about Ethiopia apart from the system that has been developed by the EPRDF. He grew up and brought up by that system. What does that system mean? That system has profited him. Abiy has used all possible opportunities. He was given the most opportunity that was available to few people in Ethiopia. That was given by Abiy. Abiy was allowed to establish INSA, one of the most advanced and intelligence security agents. Abiy was allowed to move on to the ministerial level. Abiy was allowed to go to the prime minister. What wrong thing that the TPLF did to him? Nothing else. He was the most benefited person, and he had no reason at all, by any measurement, had no reason and has no reason to blame these people. It's just he was a mercenary, because most people, when they just work as a security, as an agent, they act like a mercenary. He is now, he went to war, not because he had a problem with the TPLF, because he cannot justify or he cannot convince us Abiy has got problem with them. There is no reason. He just went on to satisfy other people who has a problem with him. Of course, we have a problem with the TPLF. We were the ones who were mostly affected, killed, harassed. Okay, extrajudicial killings. We were the one who were subjected to, Oromos. He did not go for a war with TPLF to bring justice. He just went on to support those group of people by which they were trying to control Oromo people and bring down, like in the past many years back. So Abiy Ahmed, because he was one of the most trusted person, a staunch supporter of the system himself, nothing can be expected from him than what we are witnessing now. That was a plan. Why he was brought up to power? Yes, they might have a kind of problem with the TPLF. That is in terms of advantage or in terms of saving himself when he goes to the highest office. Because in Ethiopia, nobody can charge him because there is no due process of law. So when he went on to the power at their kangaroo, what do you call it, House of Representatives, he said, we're the one who terrorizing people, and we deserve apology from our people. And he confessed it. That is the language. He cheated people, and the people really believed him. Well, there are many people who did not believe him. In terms of, for example, most Oromos and the politically active people did not believe him, and some they were believing. There were some who believed him, and gradually, after loss and the loss of harassment and extrajudicial killings, no process of law, no, the broad daylight human rights violations, which is rampant now in that empire, especially in Oromia. The system has never changed itself. It has never been reformed itself. We have got issue not with individuals, Hassan Oromo. My issue is with the system. Even if you bring someone who believes in democratic system, he cannot change himself that on his own, because the system, it has to be abolished. Well, because you said what is that to be done? We can discuss when we are there what I think should really help to get out of this mess and the problem, especially
from what you're saying, Nagasa. You're saying, obviously, Abiy joined the TPLF force in the early 1990s when he was a very young boy. And,
when he was a teenager, yes. Is what he claimed.
He was brought up by the TPLF, and he was even called the right-hand man of Meles Zenawi. So, but he ended up stabbing TPLF in the back. Well, I'm not advocating for TPLF. TPLF committed many crimes, one of which being crafting Opidio and imposing it on the Oromo people, as a result of which the likes of Abiy Ahmed are being produced. So effectively, Abiy Ahmed stabbed his own people, the very guys who did him a favor, the very guys, in fact, that voted him, voted for him when there was a kind of election within the party. For him to become a prime minister. In fact, all that was as a result of the very firm action taken by the Oromo public. Then he went to the office. For what good reason? You know him. And when he stabbed the TPLF in the back, he's conducted what amounts to genocide against civilians in Tigray, and he did all this with the collaboration of Eritrea. Isn't it ironic? You know, in 1999, 2000, Abiy Ahmed was a colonel. He was combatant, wasn't he? He fought the Eritrean army, and now he's got that very army he fought against, invited them to occupy Tigray. And now the Eritrean army are reportedly conducting genocide. And we've seen international reports stating that about more than 50,000 innocent civilians have been killed. So what is strategic common goal that Abiy Ahmed and the Eritrea's President Isaias Afwerki, some people call him the president of Africa's North Korea?
Yeah, well, I think it is good if we start right after, immediately after Abiy Ahmed became the Prime Minister of Ethiopia. As we know, and the world also know, there were lots of countries who involved to bring peace between Ethiopia and Eritrea. Lots of renowned international communities, organizations involved to bring peace between Ethiopia and Eritrea. But that did not go well. And because of that, there was no war, no peace zone created by the United Nations Security Council, where the militaries were like a zone where people were not really free to move until Prime Minister came to power, but Dr. Abiy Ahmed came to power. Then, how on earth Abiy Ahmed, who never had involved in any kind of peace talk, someone who did not have any kind of experience, even in many ways, and succeeded in bringing peace between Ethiopia and Eritrea in a very, very short period of time? Was he the most talented than any other peace, organizations which were really participated in this kind of thing across the nation, internationally, between different nations, different countries, lots of prominent individuals, organizations, and countries involved to bring peace and stability between Ethiopia and Eritrea? But that did not go, as we all know. How? Then why he became really successful? No, he was not really talented, and the peace talk was not really something which Abiy could have taken the credit. That was wrong. That was wrong, because look, Ethiopian people and Eritrean people are not still aware of the peace talk, the details, the deal package. Nobody knows, but we know now. We can think of it. The deal was that they have already created one common enemy called TPLF. Like you said, Abiy stabbed at the back of the TPLF on behalf of others, like the people who really want to have Ethiopia as one nation, who speaks one language, one culture, abolishing, federalism, and this kind of system that had been established for the last 30 years. So they have created common enemy called TPLF, because the war was conducted by the TPLF during the Ethiopian Eritrea war from 1998 to 2000. Because in that EPRDF, in that organization, TPLF was a powerful one. So everybody blame of finger was always to TPLF. Like you said, I'm not advocating for TPLF, because TPLF, of course, they deserve to have this kind of thing, even though this is not the right way to bring people to justice and to serve. This is not the way you should serve justice, not by killing. That is another point of discussion. We may discuss it some other time. So,
very good.
This is the point now. Because Abiy has promised Isaias Afwerki to attack TPLF. Then, when he promised him, he created the false peace talk and the stability, which is not going to be last for longer after all. And then they just became friends, isolating Tigray from Ethiopia and sandwiching in between, and squashed. The aim was, they think that they were trying to dissolve that organization or TPLF and with its system, but unfortunately that did not happen. It did not happen. What happened is that now at our watch is that the war was protracted to international in that region, including Sudan, and the civilians are attacked, and broad daylight gang rape, and using rape as a weapon, and execution, summary execution, ethnic profiling. It's not TPLF who've been really badly hit from the war. It is innocent people of Tigray, which they deserve voice by anybody.
Yeah.
It is about humanity. Because one thing we know, if Eritrea and the Somalian force did not participate in this war, that was the obvious one, that the Ethiopian force couldn't really resist TPLF force, because the Northern Command is one of the giants, and of 4 commands, 3 of them add up together, and they cannot equate with the Northern Command in many ways. This has got its own reason, because the sovereignty of the country was under stake on the northern side because of Eritrea, the conflict between Eritrea and Tigray. That's why the command post has been established very, very well in many ways, including the modern equipment, including radar, jamming system, everything of the country's military forces, well advanced one, well trained in terms of number, in terms of any military sophisticated equipment. Because Abiy knew this, because he knew that he's not going to challenge by his own force, he had to have invited Eritrea to invade his own country, Tigray. You see, that is where they stuck now, and they could not get out of it by kind of normalization now. So that's why this man is really, really playing a dirty game. Even not only with the Tigray people or Oromo people, he's also playing dirty game with the international community, including the United States, UK, International Red Cross, humanitarian organizations, UNHCR. They are now pointing towards Ethiopia and Eritrea, because you said, like you said, Eritrea is Isaias Afwerki is called like the North Korea of Africa, where people are not allowed to move freely, where there is no political party which has have a different kind of opinion, an alternative opinion for their own people. Never existed. He doesn't believe in democratic movement, in democratic establishment, election process, and ideas and different ideas. Always, always the choking dissent and the squashing democracy. That is what he's been trained and has been running all the way through Eritrea for the last 30 years. Now Abiy has attached himself with this kind of individual who's known by his gross human rights violation across the globe, and befriended himself with Isaias Afwerki. If he's befriended with Isaias Afwerki, we can safely say that it is Isaias Afwerki, the close advisor of Prime Minister of Ethiopia, Dr. Abiy Ahmed, and that's why the Ethiopian Board of Election cannot be neutral. And I think, based on the someone who had been part of intelligence in that country, I can say Ethiopian Election Board is not free from the impact or involvement of Eritrean security forces. There is no reason to justify Ethiopian Election Board is running free and independent. Every system in Ethiopia now is advised by the security underground intelligence.
Well, in fact, there are reports.
So the Ethiopian, the sovereign nature or sovereignty of Ethiopia is completely gone now, and that we cannot. Of course, I do not say that the country, even those who believe that Ethiopia is independent and sovereign, that is not working. History has been now in its making. History is the making. You cannot say since 2018 up to now, nobody genuinely claims that Ethiopia is a sovereign country. It is invaded by by foreign invasion. Ethiopia is under the foreign invasion, by the full scale, including military, security, advice. Ethiopia is under invasion, and it is shame those people, individuals who say, to have Ethiopia in the future and believe that Ethiopia as a country, it's a shame to see this, and Ethiopia is under invasion. Fully, Ethiopia is not free, and there is, I do not expect there is a free and a fair election in Ethiopia by any means. Even if all political prisoners are released, the election cannot be free. Why? Because the Eritrean president himself strongly said in the media that it doesn't believe in federalism in Ethiopia. Yeah. It doesn't believe that having different opinions, having different political groups. He doesn't believe it. If he doesn't believe it, what do you think he's going to advise the government? He advised to kill all these people in prison, political parties to kick them out of the country, to kick them out of the election process, and nothing will happen. Look, I've served Eritrea for over 30 years now, and nothing will happen. Do this, don't do that. That is the way Abiy is getting advice. So people has to be aware of. People have to be aware of this really, this kind of theoretical aspects the two individuals are playing. What they are talking and what they have advised and what they were, doing mutually together. The two nations are not aware of it. If they think they are the leader and a public servant, there is nothing which they could have hid from, their own people. Nobody knows. And the meeting always is a closed meeting. Isaias Afewerki, one of the shame things that I be allowed in Ethiopia, because I'm not advocating for Ethiopia. That is what I need to make it clear. I'm advocating for Oromo people, and I believe that Oromia is a country, and I'm a national of Oromo. That is why.
Right. Okay. Let's come back. Coming back to Oromia. Sorry for interrupting.
Yeah.
You mentioned people should be aware of this. People should be aware of that. As we speak now, we've got several tens of thousands of innocent Oromo languishing in various prisons illegally for no fault of theirs. Perhaps the international media now is, reporting about the hunger strike. That's only the tip of the iceberg. People are only mentioning those figures with high political profiles. But at every village, at every corner, at every town and city of Oromia, there is arbitrary arrest, even now taking place. And as we speak, we'll be receiving reports of arbitrary killing in eastern part of Oromia, in western part of Oromia, and up down the country. And now, like I mentioned earlier, schools, colleges, and public infrastructures are now being converted to prison, including the military training facilities. That is, never mind the COVID. So what should be done? What should now let's focus on the Oromo. We might get back to this topic another time. We will talk about Sudan. Sudan has claimed its territory that was taken away from Sudan during the colonial period. And there is this, ticking time bomb, just waiting to go off. Let's leave that and focus on Oromia, because now the stake is getting higher and higher as arbitrary mass killing, arbitrary mass arrest is being intensified throughout Oromia. So what should be done? What should the Oromo people do? What should the Oromo politicians and political parties do? And what are the international community are supposed to do in order to stop the atrocities, not just in Oromia, in other parts of the empire, including Tigray? What are your take? What should be done?
Okay. I think it's a very good question now. The thing is,